This is Zombie Chicas podcast, where two heads are better than one, even if they're undead. My name is Megan.
And my name is Marlene. And this is the
20th episode.
Number 20.
Yes.
Okay, so with this month we are delving deep into the depths of fear/phobias.
Yes.
This one specifically is rational fears,
Yes.
which we all have.
Yes, and it's rational. It's understandable. Especially, it all depends also where you live, what your circumstances is. Like,
Exactly, history,
fears of
genetic history.
Yeah,
That as
experience.
well.
That also creates rational fears. Yeah. Okay, so will you start us off with some bit of
Psychological theories.
Yes.
Okay, so the Urban Dictionary, just to clarify, that a fear is a reaction about a real threat where we have to protect ourselves, something that we are consciously aware of. It comes from the human brain and is brought about by genetics. This kind of fear keeps us alert and can be somewhat of a challenge.
Yeah.
So if we think about fear, it's our survival response. It is in our DNA.
Yeah, it's the fight or flight.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So fear is experienced in our mind, but it triggers a strong physical reaction in your body. When you recognize fear, your amygdala, that's a small organ in the middle of your brain, starts to alert your nervous system, which sets your body's fear response into motion. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released. Your blood pressure and heart rate would increase, and even your blood flow changes. Your blood actually flows away from your heart into your limbs, making it easier for you to start throwing punches or run for your life.
Yeah.
Which is your fight or flight
Response.
As some parts of your brain are revving up, others are shutting down. So when the amygdala senses fear, the cerebral cortex, the area of the brain that harnesses reasoning and judgment, becomes impaired. So it becomes difficult to make good decisions or think clearly. I think that's why you can't think of
A solution or what to do.
It's like you're literally standing there, But it's still unclear why we have fears. I mean, it is psychological, but they still can't understand why.
It's almost like that survival response where it's the implication that there might be death.
Because the survival response is very, very, very deep in our genetic system. One theory is that humans have a genetic predisposition to fear things that were a threat to our ancestors, like snakes and spiders, heights, or water.
Yeah.
But this is difficult to verify. Throughout human history, certain animals, as described earlier, snakes and spiders, have caused numerous deaths. Thus, some researchers believe men and women may have evolved to carry an innate instinct to avoid such creatures, as it would deliver a survival advantage. I mean, if you think about it, if you have, let's say, a person, a hominid or Homo erectus, if you go back that far in ancestry, that picked up a poisonous snake and died, and the other person that saw it survived. Therefore, genetic
mutation happens with the survival.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. It's also sometimes called primal fear. Others point to evidence that individuals fear certain things because of a previous traumatic experience with them, but that fails to explain the many fears without such origins. But what is the difference between a fear and a phobia? So fear is a common reaction to events or objects, but a fear becomes a phobia when it interferes with your ability to function and maintain a consistent quality of life. Phobias can manifest at any time, but tend to emerge in childhood or adolescence, and symptoms are often lifelong. As many as 9% of Americans annually experience a specific phobia, according to the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, if you must. And women are twice as likely as men to have a phobia. I couldn't really find out why it is that women have...
I also feel like
I wonder if it's not a...
It might be like a motherly instinct, like
I think so, but I just couldn't find any evidence where it says why women are more likely
it
to
might
have
be
fears.
because if you consider prehistorically, the males went out to hunt for days and days and days on end,
And
where the females stayed at home and looked after the kids. So clearly they sort of shouldn't have a fear, because then they won't be able to do their duties, the males, to actually provide food. So
it's not uncommon to have multiple phobias. 3/4 of individuals diagnosed with a specific phobia have more than one, and it's not impossible to have something as three or four more.
So as a basically the likeliness of you having a phobia just means that you're more likely to have more, because you already have a fear. So
no, it's just to say that it's not uncommon
to have more than one fear. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. If you think about, like, say you have a fear for boats, then you'll have a fear for ferries, any flotation device, any, you know, it's basically, if there's fears that coincide, yeah.
But there's a very cool YouTube video that I watched. It's called Virus Called Fear. So the link will be in the description. Go watch it. It's actually very informative.
Okay.
It's very informative. Psychologists theorize that our fears change because of industrialization, i.e. technology.
True.
We are therefore more afraid of other people, and it's also a social construct.
Yeah.
Fear is also learned, therefore conditioned. The fear of them. You know, the fear of a different culture, the fear of a different colored person, any of those things, it's a social construct.
Yeah.
This is actually quite scary though. There was a test done on a small child named Albert and his white rat. So every time Albert wanted to pet the rat, there was a very loud noise where he would startle.
Yeah.
Afterwards, after multiple of these incidences where every time Albert wanted to touch the rat, they made this very loud noise where he actually became afraid of the rat.
Okay.
So you can actually be learned how to be afraid. And this is also how superstitions are born. There's a psychologist called Skinner. He used pigeons and created superstitions in pigeons. It's absolutely amazing. I know about the story of no such thing as a fish, because what they do is, it's also, if we think about it, it's a way of positive reinforcement.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But what he did with the pigeons is he, whenever they did something, let's say they scraped their beak on the ground, like most of them do, to clean their beaks or to sharpen their beaks, whichever reason they use it for, he would feed them. He would feed a pigeon.
Oh.
So the pigeon realized that so every time
he does this, he
gets food. So he tried it with different pigeons with different variations. So let's say the one would say krr, and he would feed it, and the pigeon realizes that every time it says krr, it would get food. So this is also how superstitions are called. Like, for instance, you were wearing a red shirt while you won a competition. So now you think to yourself, okay, but I need to wear
red to be
in order to win another event.
Yeah,
or
to
whatever.
be lucky, basically.
Exactly. So this is how superstitions are also how they start. Also, it's a way to cope with anxiety. So if we are coming back to the condition, how to condition fear, the fear of rejection can also be seen as irrational. But along the way, someone was rejected. So if we look at Charles Manson, I'm not even going to explain who's Charles Manson, because everyone knows who's Charles Manson. He was abandoned by his mother, and he spent half of his life in correctional institutions and studied Scientology in prison. So he convinced a group of people to brutally murder a lot of people. So if we look at people with rejection problems, they form a group to get a sense of belonging and enforce this fear of the other.
Yeah.
Therefore, we can go back that fear is conditioned.
Definitely. But that's the thing, is like where the point where your fear is valid, but what it does to you mentally, that's where it goes from rational to irrational.
Oh yes, definitely.
Because obviously it's the way you react and the way it completely dishevels your life. So if it disrupts your life, that's where the difference becomes. But let's do some irrational fears for today. So what I did was I chose some rational fears, and then I'm going to give you statistics on why people have this fear. Because it is self-explanatory if you think about the fear, why people have it. But I'll just give you statistics, and it is not to form this fear in other people. I am so sorry if I do that. But it's just to actually wrap your mind around why people have develop this fear and have this rational fear. Even though it's not necessarily, if you think about it, of how big the population of the world is, the chances of something like this happening to you might be low, depending on where you live. If you're in places where it is a high chance, the chance of you having that fear is very, very higher. Because circumstances and things like that. So my first one is going to be about elevators. So a lot of people have a fear of elevators. And with good reason.
I don't like elevators.
See, I don't like elevators because I don't necessarily like small spaces, but I also get lightheaded from elevators.
I don't like the feeling of it.
Same. I get lightheaded.
I always I take the stairs. I always take the stairs. Like I had this class on the 5th floor.
Yeah.
On this one building. I fucking took the stairs every single fucking time because I did not want to get into the elevator. And also it's because it's like 7 or 8 people in a 1 by 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter square elevator. Yeah. And that's a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And it's, for some reason I get lightheaded, and I'm still don't know to this day why. I think it's maybe the movement of the
I also
because I suffer from motion sickness. It's probably to do with that.
That's probably to do with that. But
so
not suffering from motion sickness.
That is weird that you have
exactly. And not the thing. And the other thing is, I've never had an instance that I can recall that I was stuck in an elevator, that I fell down an elevator, or had any accident in an elevator where I don't like the elevator.
Do you know someone that was stuck in an elevator? No. So weirdly enough, they say that most people, even though in their lifetime they might not have been stuck in an elevator, they do know someone or know someone of someone that has. But here's some statistics for you guys. On average, office elevators makes about 400,000 trips per year.
Wow.
So elevators and escalators in an office building run about 10 hours per day. In offices with 5 working days per week, elevators operate about 260 working days per year, or 2,600 hours per year. If you use an elevator 8 times per day in your office and you work 200 days per year, you will take 1,600 trips per year in an elevator. If an installed lift experiences an average of 0.4 man traps per year, the probability of an entrapment during any single trip is then 0.4 divided by 400,000. So it equals to about 0.01% annually.
Sure.
If you travel 1,600 times up and down to your office in a year, your chance of getting trapped in an elevator is thus 0.16%. So it's very, very low. So during a 40 years working career, this means roughly a 6% probability of getting into a man trap in an office elevator. So in 40 years, you only have a 6% chance of being trapped in an elevator, which is very, very low. But if you happen to live in a high-rise apartment building and use the apartment elevators, your chance of getting trapped may rise to about 12% during a 40 years of lift usage. So the chance is low, but it is never zero. That's the thing.
I think that's almost anything about anything.
Yes. So I'm going to give you some...
Can I give you a statistic just randomly?
Just randomly.
Your chances of being killed by a rabbit is never 0.
Yeah.
Fact of the day.
Fact of the day.
Fact of the day. So just remember there, you can be killed by a rabbit.
By a rabbit. What is that memes always, what? It's always like the chance of you getting killed by a cat is low, but never 0. And then it like has like an evil staring cat. But yeah, so this is going to be some cases where people have actually died during a man trap on an elevator. Okay, so on March 1st, 2016, a 43-year-old woman was found starved to death inside an elevator at an apartment building in the Chinese city of Ziyang. She was overlooked when maintenance men examined the broken elevator and cut off the power to it. When they returned more than a month later, the woman's body was found. So, and then on the 16th of November in 2018, an elevator plunged 84 floors at the 100-story John Hancock Center in Chicago after 2 of the cables holding the lift snapped. Oh, but no one was injured or killed.
That's
and then
scary.
Another incident, very scary to think about it. On the 22nd of August 2019, 30-year-old Samuel Weisbren was crushed to death at an apartment building in New York City when the elevator which he was trying to exit suddenly descended. 5 other people were trapped in the elevator and were later rescued by firefighters. 1 man had exited the elevator just before it gave way.
Shit.
And that's like...
insane.
Yeah.
Apparently they do say that when it happens, you need to lie down.
Yeah, because obviously if you go up in the air...
It's to save your legs as
Yeah.
well.
And then on 14th September 2020, a 38-year-old Boston University lecturer, Kerry O'Connor, was crushed to death at an apartment building in Boston when the elevator suddenly descended, trapping her in the doorway.
Fuck.
Yeah. This is actually a story of a man that was one of the men, or one of the people that has been stuck in the elevator for one of the longest durations of someone being stuck in an elevator and then being saved. So on April 21st, 2008, the article is, it was the longest cigarette break of Nicholas White's life. So the 34-year-old New York production manager was working late one Friday night in October when he went outside for a smoke. He was returning to his office on the 39th floor when the elevator stopped abruptly between floors. White pressed the alarm, letting it ring and ring, but at 11 p.m. the building was deserted and it would be nearly 2 days before White was rescued. He paced around the elevator like a bug trapped in a box, fighting claustrophobia every minute of his 41-hour ordeal, which was captured on a video surveillance camera. After a certain amount of time, I knew I was in big trouble, White told Good Morning America in an exclusive interview. He had no watch, no cell phone, no food or water. His only sustenance was a pack of Rolaids, which is a pack of cigarettes. The most difficult part of the ordeal, he said, was going 41 hours without water. At one point, White thought he might die of dehydration. He relieved himself by opening the elevator doors a bit and urinating down the elevator shaft. I hoped that that might be a signal to people, in fact. Why is the elevator leaking? Cold yet sweating, White laid on the floor trying to stay calm. Then he got up and started pacing. At one point, he pried open the elevator doors and screamed for help. The only response was silence. I had no idea if it was day or night, White said. He rang the emergency bell, but he couldn't take the constant noise, so he occasionally turned it off. Split-screen video footage of the building showed other parts of the building, including 3 other elevators. The video showed maintenance workers occasionally fixing various things, but no one heard him and none of them wondered what was going on with car number 30. On Sunday at 4 p.m., White, who was nearly delirious from thirst, heard a voice on the intercom asking if anyone was there. Finally, he was rescued.
I can't imagine being trapped in an elevator for 2 days without food or water.
Yep.
At some point, you need to think to yourself, I probably need to drink my own piss.
But also, like...
It's sterile, but it's not good for you.
It's not good for you, no. Like, you might...
You'll probably get a build-up from salt and other minerals that's in your urine, because your urine is waste, literally.
Yeah, so it just... For 41 hours.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's enough to give you nightmares.
And this is why people have fears for elevators.
I do understand that.
Yeah. And if I created some fears with some people, I'm sorry, I take full responsibility.
No, same year. Same year. Absolutely same year. So mine is acrophobia, which is the fear of spiders. Because I have a terrible fear of spiders.
Well, no, you have a phobia. You have a full-on phobia. It's surpassed the point of fear.
You know, I actually thought really hard about these because I took the phobia part because it's also stuff that I can relate with. Again, I mean, I would go into a shed. People that have phobias for spiders would ultimately avoid going into sheds or into spaces where there might be an encounter. I knowingly and idiotically go into those places and just hope the fuck I don't see them, because thankfully I have not bad eyesight, but at least I can't see very far. Yeah. So if I don't see it, I'm fine.
True. Okay, it's on the brink of a phobia. It's
let's just say
it's a big fear.
Let's just say you have saved me multiple times. multiple times.
Yeah.
With when we used to live together with spiders.
Yeah.
And thank God I've never experienced, I don't want to say it, touch wood, a very big specimen.
Oh, yeah, it's usually very...
Just talking about
You're just looking around. There's nothing in my room, don't worry. I would have warned you beforehand.
Just saying. Oh, but also interesting fact that if you have a fear for something as spiders, you have a tendency to notice them more.
Because you have that fear and you're always constantly looking out.
So around the world, there's been an estimate of between 3 and 15% of people have been diagnosed with specific phobias. The diagnosis of a specific phobia requires that the symptoms be present for at least 6 months and cause significant distress or disruption to your life and well-being, like I said before. So some of the causes that you can get for arachnophobia is evolutionary responses, like we said, ancestral survival techniques, cultural or religious beliefs, like, staying away from spiders, or snakes in some cases, and family influences. Like, if a parent has a specific phobia, then you will also have it. But no one in my family really has a specific phobia besides me and my brother.
That is very interesting.
My grandmother told me once this harrowing story, and from this day I can't put my hand in a pocket of potatoes.
Oh.
Yeah, that story.
Yeah.
So for those, obviously, who won't know this story, my grandmother told us the story this one time. She stored her vegetables in the old dining room. And this one time she went to go fetch potatoes. And the pocket of potatoes stood in the dining room. As she placed her hand inside the pocket of potatoes, she felt something hairy and took her hand out of said pocket of potatoes and she knocked it over. And in her haste, she just saw this motherfucking mother of a spider crawling out of the fucking bag. So I can't. So after she told me this story, I can't put my hand into something where I can't see.
Yeah.
So that's another fear within this fear of spiders.
Oh God.
Because I honestly can't say when my fear of spiders started. I mean, I grew up on a farm. There you have a shitload of spiders.
Yeah.
I've never been bitten by one. I honestly can't say how
it started.
But
your brother also has a really big fear for spiders.
It's clearly it's a genetic thing. I would never forget it. This one time, Leslie, I thought I saw a spider, and my boyfriend took the so-called spider picked it up with his hand and made as if he threw it on me, and I had a full-blown panic attack where I started crying. My dad came out of the bathroom and was like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm just standing there crying, not understanding what the fuck is going on.
Oh my goodness.
And the only thing it was
Oh, it was fluff.
it was fluff that literally looked like a spider.
A spider, yeah.
And this one time, again, my stepdad, it was at night, and he called me outside to come look at something. He showed me something, but I couldn't see. As I stood closer, he moved the flashlight so I can see it, and I was pretty much face to face with this. I can only recall it as a brown, yellow spider. What the fuck it was, I can't remember, but it was in the middle of the night as well. And at that moment, a family friend of ours, just whispered something behind me in my ear. I gave this humongous scream, ran to my room and had my panic attack in the corner, holding my knees and rocking back and forth.
Hyperventilating.
I'm crying. Oh God. Oh, any case, yeah, so that's my spider stories. I have more, but they're mostly embarrassing, so we'll move on.
Okay, so my second fear is beat. Bears.
Beat the decks.
People have fears for bears and bear attacks. So these fears are mainly for people that are in a general area of bears, because especially like in North America, where it is actually common to see bears in certain parts of America, where with us in South Africa that
we don't
have bears.
The closest thing we have to a bear is a honey badger.
Yeah, but it's
honey badgers are fucking scary.
Yeah, I know, but it's not the same as a bear.
But it's the closest thing.
It's the closest thing, yeah.
We don't have lions roaming the fucking streets.
Yeah, but, like most people think South Africa is. No.
Did you see that meme?
What meme?
There was a meme, I can't remember what it was, but it was a photo that was taken with literally a lion walking in the street. Like, it looked like it could be in Joburg or someplace.
What?
And the caption that someone said, please fucking share this to the world that we have wild animals roaming the streets. It was literally in a city. You couldn't really make out what city it was, but it was absolutely funny.
I have a cousin that lives in America, and her friends actually asked when we were younger if we have a lion as a pet. And no, we do not. I am scared shitless of lions, and why the fuck will I have a lion as a pet? Anyway, not the point. So, statistics suggest there have been over 180 fatal bear attacks in North America since 1784. While the majority of these fatal attacks have been carried out by wild bears, some are the result of bears held in captivity. So the oldest person to be attacked and killed by a bear was 93, and the youngest 5 months old. However, people tend to be about 37.5 years on average. So there are 3 types of bears that are commonly involved in fatal North American attacks, which are polar bears, black bears, and brown bears. They've killed cabin goers, campers, and joggers, as well as miners, researchers, and children, among others. So, fatal polar bear attacks. There have been 11 fatal polar bear attacks in North America. 7 of these attacks were done by wild polar bears, all of which took place in Canada or Alaska. And then...
Sorry, can I interrupt you there? Something very interesting that if you are being not attacked, but you see a polar bear approaching. So apparently what you should do is not turn away and run, because that obviously is going to kick in.
It's prey. Yeah.
It's
food.
Exactly, killing instinct. And that's mainly also one of the things that happens when you approach a bear as well. So what you should do is you should stand still and gradually
move backwards
and remove clothes.
Wow.
A
Why?
clothing item, because it's curious. They are very curious creatures.
Oh, so it will actually start smelling the clothing and take attention away from you. Yeah,
So
I think I'll just shit
you
myself and then it can put attention to the pile of shit. I think, okay, I'll do that.
But apparently that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell the difference between a brown bear or a black bear, because both of them have very dark or light
variants
of fur, is you should climb a tree.
And see which one climbs in them.
Because black bears they will attack. They won't eat you, but they are herbivores.
Yeah.
So they are they will attack you if you give them reason to. So if anyone notices, I am bear obsessed.
Yes.
Bit of an understatement. But yeah, so that's what you're supposed to do. And I know for a fact with bears, if it's a brown bear or a black bear, there's also certain things that you need to do. Obviously not run away, because...
Yeah. You won't get far. Bears are fucking... I must say bears are expensive. I mean, bears are fast.
In short distances.
Really,
they can
really
outrun
fast.
you
Yeah.
very quickly. And the thing is, a bear is only going to be... They will only attack you on the hindquarters, not on all fours.
Yeah.
So when they stand up, that's when you need to scarper or do something.
Yeah.
But apparently what you're supposed to do is in those cases is look big. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm sorry. With my stature, I don't think I can look big.
Same here. So
I mean, you're still at least taller than me, though.
But apparently that's what you're supposed to do.
I'll look like a midday fucking snack to them. God, anyway. Okay, so all the polar bear attacks happen in Canada or Alaska. No one in the continental United States have ever been fatally attacked by a wild polar bear. However, captive polar bears are responsible for 4 fatal North American attacks, which all occurred in eastern U.S. zoos.
Sure.
Just years apart, the Toledo Zoo in 1972, Baltimore Zoo in 1976, Central Park Zoo in 1982, and Prospect Park Zoo in 1987 were the sites of captive polar bear attacks. While 11 total lives lost to polar bears isn't something to sniff at, other types of bear are certainly more dangerous. Black bears, for example, have fatally attacked 82 people in North America. Of the 82 fatal black bear attacks in North America, 66, or just over 80%, have been from wild bears. Okay, so if you think the high number of attacks proves dangerous, note that those 66 fatal wild black bear attacks occurred all over North America. Unlike with polar bears, nearly everyone living in the US, Canada, and Mexico is susceptible to wild black bear attack.
It's a bigger area as well.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, like polar bears, captive fatal black bear attacks have only occurred in the US and once in Ontario, Canada. There have been 16 of these fatal attacks, most taking place in the northeast, like when George Langley and James Virtue were attacked by the black bear they kept in a cage at their gas station in Ellsworth, Maine. Yet, even with 82 total fatal attacks, black bears are still not the deadliest bear in North America. The number one deadliest bear is to watch out for is the brown bear. Brown bears are responsible for 90 fatal bear attacks in North America, 82 of which were done by wild bears. And every single one took place in the west side of the continent, where the most brown bears live. One recent victim of a brown bear attack was Kevin Karma, who was killed in Montana's Gallatin National Forest in 2010. Karma was in his tent at Soda Butte campground when a mother bear attacked and dragged him 25 feet away. 2 other campers in separate campsites were also attacked. A teenager was bitten in the leg and a woman was bitten in the arm and leg. However, the eastern side of the continent has seen a brown bear attack, though they were all done by captive bears. Thomas Earl, a 56-year-old zookeeper at the Cleveland Brookside Zoo in Ohio, was mauled by a brown bear when feeding in its pen. So here is some more numbers. Brown bear attacks between on humans between 2000 and 2015 is about 664 worldwide.
Sure.
So North America is 183, Europe is 291, and the East is 190.
East as in Southeast Asia.
I'm guessing, because that's just what they said
Because
on
they
the
have a very
statistic.
small bear.
Yeah. And it says when the attacks occurred, half of the people were engaged in leisure activities, and the main scenario was an encounter with a female with cubs.
And there you have it.
Mm-hmm.
But the big problem with bears and any big animal is they are very territorial.
Yeah, and it's the same concept with thinking you can go swim in the ocean and like not get attacked by a shark. Like it's the same with if you're in a wild camping ground where you know there is bears, the chance, and especially because you
Female with cubs.
yeah, and especially you're barbecuing food, there's smell of food, they can
Different smells as well. It
Exactly.
will trigger their territorial
instinct. Yeah,
and
definitely.
they will attack.
So, and especially if it's like a lot of drunk people making noise and as soon as they go to sleep, that's when the bears attack, because obviously that's when you're most vulnerable. And the bears know it because they have that instinct to attack. So, but yeah. So it's understandable why people have the fear, but also don't be stupid.
Good way to
Like-
end that one. Don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid. Like, at least do your research. Try and figure out in the areas you go to where, how often there's bear sightings, how long ago there was a bear attack. Especially if you go for a weekend camping somewhere. Do your research and make sure you have the proper way to put your food away, the proper, like, equipment to use and know what to do when you encounter a bear. And I think most people in America especially do know what to do, but there is probably a lot of people that still don't know what to do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, because if you think about it, you're going into his habitat.
Exactly. And it's like, say someone comes to attack you in your house.
You will use a gun
Or you
some
will
sort of device
you will
to-
attack back. Like, it's the same. It's you. They're in your environment, being a threat to you, and you might not be a threat to the bear, but it's a bear. It doesn't know which animal is a threat or not. It's the same concept of like either attack or be attacked. So that's why they do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
I find it weird because I have this love for bears, but it's understandable. But
Yeah.
again, it's people being idiots. But
But not just that, but you never grew up with bear attacks.
exactly,
So
exactly. Or
you
seen people being attacked by bears.
yeah,
or,
you would have felt different if you grew up somewhere where
No,
you've
definitely.
known people that's been attacked by bears.
No, definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely, definitely.
And most of these are like mainly not just it's attacks where someone actually lost limbs and things like that. It's not just deaths. Yeah. The first part was purely deaths that has occurred, but the second part is like attacks that has happened.
But you know what's funny though? What I find is that people don't have a fear of hippos. Because statistically, more people are being killed by hippos than by sharks or
Yeah.
any other animal.
True, but you don't necessarily, depending on where you are, how often do you encounter?
There's actually a lot of hippos overseas because there's shit.
Yeah, I know
I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a
zoologist.
no.
I have no idea.
He had I can't remember where it was. It was probably in Spain somewhere. But it's this very odd, it's this big ranch basically with a small dam. And this guy was a very famous smuggler in its time. And one of the animals that he imported was hippos. So there's this region, I think in Spain, I'm not sure where it is, but there's literally this region with wild hippos. Because they obviously procreated and created wild hippos and they just roam there.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's where hippos Oh,
Massive.
extremely dangerous.
And very territorial,
Yeah.
especially the bulls.
Yeah. And they kill you not for food, they kill you because of out of territory.
Yeah, definitely. Because their tusks are very sharp.
Mm.
But in any case, my next one is acrophobia, which is the fear of heights. Because I think a lot of people can relate to that, because it's also one of the common ones. Not just the common ones, but it's one of the genetic ones as well. Because it impacts more than 6 people of the world. Which is small, but if you think about it, it's quite a lot of people. Scientists believe that it's a genetic fear, adaptation to an environment which a fall from heights pose a danger. Because I know for a fact I am shit scared of heights. Like, I find it sometimes difficult to stand on a chair.
Okay, no, I don't have a fear for heights. I just sometimes get the urge to jump.
Oh, there's a name for that.
Like, I'll stand and, like, look over the edge. I'm like, I wonder. But no, I like my life. I'm good.
There's a name for that. I can't remember
It's
what
such
you
a
call
weird
it.
feeling. You're like, it sort of gives you this feeling of you're so, I don't know, it sort of grounds you more, because you're like, if I would fall or jump now, like, that's it. Like, I think it's the same as if concept if you're like in an accident, or it's sort of, you realize you're actually a mortal being. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean.
yeah.
You know, that's it's also, you know, it's one of the things that, again, I can't say mine's a phobia, mine's more of a fear.
Yeah.
Because I don't go out of I won't, you know, stand by a window, like on a second floor building and think, oh God, I'm going to fall. You know, there is some...
That you keep your distance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I think to myself, like on my 4th floor, what's the floor flat? I mean, I don't feel...
Oh, true. If you stand on your balcony, do you feel like...
I'm going to die? No, I don't.
No,
but if I have to stand on the fucking edge, which I had to once, I
my
almost died.
Just from the fear.
Because I literally stood with the, I wanted to say with the railing.
Oh no, and that
and
thing...
I had just to like lean over to look at something, because we had wasps that was trying to make a nest in like the railing, the inside the railing.
Damn.
So I had to look at where the
Hole.
the holes were.
Yeah.
And I had my phone with me with the flashlight. It was fucking scary. That's all I can say. That was scary. But me being on the balcony, that's fine.
But I've also heard, especially, like, some people develop the fear the older they get.
Oh, yes.
I think it's the closer you come to death, the more you're, like, fearing things that might be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This might be the end.
Yeah.
So, because I know my mom she didn't have a fear for heights, and now she can barely, it's almost to the point of a phobia, where she'll get, like, she'll get out of breath, and, like, you can see there's a panic starting, so she'll rather avoid being very high up, especially in a space where you can actually, like, look straight down. Where I'm okay with heights. And I've always thought, like, I don't necessarily have rational fears. I have, like, that fear instinct when because it's survival instinct that kicks in, that everyone has, but it's not, I don't obsess over it, and I don't think about it all the time. I am very paranoid though. So I don't know. I just feel like I might be attacked any minute. So it's just, is that a fear? I don't know.
Well, it's most probably a fear.
Probably a fear.
Again, but if we go back to what I said, it's because of, you know, industrialization and
yeah, but it's
we've accumulated these weird irrational fears, because
it's also where we live. It's technically not an irrational fear. We've had how many break-ins in this area we live in, so it's, and the old lady that got brutally beaten up in, like,
not so far away,
like literally down the road from me. So it's things like that obviously creates the fear, but it comes to the point where it might be irrational.
Depends on how you look at it.
Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so my next one is snakes, which is also one of the fears that is probably because of predecessors and.
I can't say I'm scared of snakes.
I'm not scared of snakes, but I have the same feeling.
Cautious.
Yes, I'm the same with spiders. So I don't have a fear of spiders, but I'm cautious. I'm not going to be stupid and like, if that spider will jump on me, I'll scream like a little girl. Like, but I can catch the spider and put it outside.
No, I can't do anything.
But
I'm
I have realized since I've been aging...
You've been aging?
I've been aging. Since I've gotten older, I felt there's more of a fear. Like, weirdly enough, there was a spider in our house, and it was next to the fridge, and I couldn't open the fridge. Like, I was like, I don't want to put my hand next to it. But when I was a few years ago, even just a few years ago, I would have opened that fridge and not felt anything. It's just, I feel like it sort of progressively gets more. But anyway, it's not necessary fear. I'm just cautious. Same with snakes. I love snakes. I'm just cautious. I'm not going to be...
I just don't want to be bitten by a snake. You know? Because you do get where they sometimes nip at you.
Yeah, you do.
Because
and it just feels like needles going in your hand if there's no venom. So.
Exactly. Ooh, interesting fact. All snakes are venomous.
It's just...
Some have basically nothing.
Yeah. Anyway, so
many facts today.
So many facts. The more you know.
Fact Friday.
So, though the exact number of snake bites is unknown, an estimated 5.4 million people are bitten each year, with up to 2.7 million in venomings. Which, if people don't know what it means, is just basically where you get venom from the snakes and get poisoned and basically need hospital attention. So around 81,000 to 138,000 people die each year because of snake bites. And around three times as many amputations and other permanent disabilities are caused by snake bites annually.
That's the puff adder. And it's adder family.
But not just that, it's just the people that don't go...
But specifically with the puff adder, if you do not get to a medical facility within a certain amount of hours, you will lose...
the area it was bitten, yeah.
I mean, I've seen... So, that's one of the snakes I'm actually quite scared of because it's such a venomous snake. Yeah. Because the thing is, if you step on one and you do not get that medical attention as quickly as possible, I've seen people lose like big pieces of their thighs and legs. Their calves are next. They don't even have calves because it literally
eats them.
It eats the meat.
Yeah,
it's absolutely horrendous. People that's left with fingers amputated because of the bite from
a snake. But yeah, so bites by venomous snakes can cause paralysis that may prevent breathing, bleeding disorders that can lead to a fatal hemorrhage, irreversible kidney failure, and tissue damage that can cause permanent disability and limb amputation. So agricultural workers and children are the most affected. And then most of these occur in Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
That's where you have the venomous snakes.
Yeah. In Asia, up to 2 million people are envenomed by snakes each year, while in Africa there are an estimated 435,000 to 580,000 snake bites annually that need treatment. Envenoming affects women, children, and farmers in poor rural communities in low and middle income countries. The highest burden occurs in countries where health systems are weakest and medical resources sparse. The most stuff that occurs is because of people not reporting it in rural areas where you can't necessarily get to a hospital fast enough, or get where you won't even be able to get antivenom, because antivenom isn't readily available everywhere. It's just certain parts of a country might have antivenom.
There's an island called Ilha da Queimada Grande, which is known as Snake Island. It's off the coast of Brazil, which is, you can't really go there because it's literally just full of snakes.
Yeah.
Someone wrote a review. My ex lives there. That's so funny. But yeah, it's you're not supposed to go there because it's infested with snakes. I've seen videos of the place. It's actually, it's quite scary.
Yeah.
Literally snakes everywhere. Like snakes on a plane.
Yeah.
Snakes everywhere.
Yeah, and so that's one fear which I see as a rational fear to have of snakes.
It's definitely a rational fear.
Especially because of where we grew up as well.
Exactly.
We've seen snakes.
I've seen my grandmother kill a yellow python.
Yeah, well, I've seen my dad kill how many snakes because we lived on a farm and they came to eat the chicken eggs and yeah.
Same. And I know for a fact, very close to, a bit far from where we live, also very city-wise, in the specific area where my cousin lived, there was a lot of Cape Cobras, like a shitload of Cape Cobras.
Yeah.
And they are very, very venomous.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this one time we literally got there, it was a Saturday morning, and they were all standing outside, and we couldn't understand why they were standing outside. Meantime, there was a Cape Cobra that got into my cousin's bedroom.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And they couldn't find it. So we left.
Yeah.
And I know this one time we went, us kids, went on an excursion, and multiple times we found like Cape Cobras.
Yeah.
In that area.
We had a black mamba that went into our washing machine, and when we tried to get it out, we couldn't find it. But yeah, I think the snakes are so big and so bad that they actually shoot it with a gun. That's how, like, you could actually shoot it with a gun.
But the one thing a person should not do is, one, if you see a snake on the road, crossing the road, do not drive over it, do not stop close to it. Because it gets into the car.
Yeah. And
because what happened to my dad's cousin is he stopped and the snake got into the car.
Shit.
And it was one of those very, 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 very large pythons on his farm. And while he was driving, he was checking his feet the whole time, just to see if you can spot the snake. But in any case, they eventually extracted the snake dead. They killed it by shooting it.
By shooting it, yeah.
Sad, but in any case. So the next one is very close to heart. It's cynophobia, which is the fear of dogs. Now, I don't have a phobia of dogs. I'm just scared of big dogs. It's often associated with a specific personal experience, such as being bitten by a dog as a child. Such events can be quite traumatic and can last up until adulthood. Person with cynophobia will avoid areas where they have dogs, which I don't do. I mean, I love dogs. I'm just I'm cautious with big dogs. With big dogs.
Yeah, because I've also been bitten, so obviously.
So it's also a very, very rational fear because it's something that happened to you. And again, I mean, I absolutely love dogs. It's just the bigger they are, the more cautious I am.
Definitely. We had a big dog and I was still cautious around our dog. Because the thing is, you never know when a dog can snap. It's still it's still an animal. It's a domesticated animal, but it's still, something can trigger it. And then, yeah. But that's one. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a fear of mine. It's also like I'm just very cautious. But especially if I'm like at someone's house that I don't really know, and they have a big dog, and the dog jumps on me, then I'm like, I get a bit
frightened,
anxious.
Yeah. No, same. We were at someone's house, and they had this massive dog. What was his name again? Brutus. Yes, Brutus. He was literally a mix between a Great Dane and fucking I don't know what. But it was this massive dog, and he licked my ears the whole time. And I just couldn't. I I just couldn't. I
You
just sat there
yeah.
with like my arms over my head, and the more I sat there, the more he wanted to lick my ears.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you see someone is uncomfortable with your dog, just like at least tell your dog no.
No shame. We were the people we visited. They were house sitting, and they found it quite funny though to see me.
Yeah, but still,
Shivering in the corner with this massive dog.
You can see you were uncomfortable. It's not that you're just like joking about it. Anyway, some people fucking assholes. Anyway, so my next one is water, the fear of water, but not necessarily the fear of water. It's the fear of drowning. So in 2019, an estimated 236,000 people died from drowning, making drowning a major public health problem worldwide. In 2019, injuries accounted for almost 8% of total global mortality. Drowning is the third leading cause of unintentional injury death, accounting for 7% of all injury-related deaths. And then
one of the reasons also why it's such a high risk as well is because people go swim in the sea.
Exactly, and they get swept away. They don't realize how strong it is. Yeah. So the global burden and death from drowning is found in all economies and regions. However, low and middle income countries account for over 90% of unintentional drowning deaths. Drowning death rates are highest in the World Health Organization Western Pacific region and are 27 to 32 times higher than those seen in the United Kingdom or Germany, respectively. Despite limited data, several studies reveal information on the cost impact of drowning. In the United States of America, 45% of drowning deaths are among the most economically active segments of the population. Coastal drowning in the United States alone accounts for $237 million each year in direct and indirect costs.
Jesus.
In Australia and Canada, the total annual cost of drowning injury is $85.5 million and $173 million respectively. There is a wide range of uncertainty around the estimate of global drowning deaths. Official data categorization methods for drowning exclude intentional drowning deaths, suicide or homicide, and drowning deaths caused by flood disasters and water transport incidents. Data from high-income countries suggests these categorization methods result in significant underrepresentation of the full drowning toll by up to 50% in some high-income countries. Non-fatal drowning statistics in many countries are not readily available or are unreliable. And then the Global Report on Drowning, which was in 2014, shows that age is one of the major risk factors for drowning. This relationship is often associated with a lapse in supervision. Globally, the highest drowning rates are among children 1 to 4 years, followed by children 5 to 9 years, and children aged 5 to 14 years die more frequently from drowning than any other cause. And then, actually, males are especially at risk of drowning, with twice the overall mortality rate of females. They are more likely to be hospitalized than females for non-fatal drowning. Studies suggest that the higher drowning rate among males are due to increased exposure to water and riskier behavior such as swimming alone, drinking alcohol before swimming alone, and boating. And
fishing as well.
Yes, fishing as well. And then increased access to water is another risk factor for drowning. So individuals with occupations such as commercial fishing or fishing for subsistence, using small boats in low-income countries are more prone to drowning. Children who live near open water sources such as ditches, ponds, irrigation channels, and pools are especially at risk.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I can recall a good couple of years ago where I fell in a very high rising river and I was alone. I was fishing, and the thing is, I have a major fear of water.
Yeah.
We will talk about that in the next episode. But what happened was I was fishing alone. We had a good couple of days where we had a lot of rain. So the rain came down the mountains and it flooded the river. And I lost my footing on the rocks that I was standing on, and I fell in the river. Luckily enough, I was very close to the rocks, so I could climb out before the
river took you, the stream took you.
Before the stream took me, because literally a few days before that, they found the body of a girl and a woman. So it was a mother and daughter they found at the end of the river. Not the end of the river, but one of the river beds.
Yeah.
Because they fell in the river. So I was one of the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm.
I can recall just after it happened, I literally took all my shit, my fishing gear, and I went home, and my mom still asked me, "Why are you so wet?" And I told her I fell in the river, and she freaked out.
No, it's and it happens so quickly. And
it happens very quickly, because all I did was I literally shifted my foot, and as I shifted my foot, I lost balance and I fell in.
And the thing is, there's so many things that could instantly.
And like I said, I was alone. No one could have heard me. No one could have seen me, because there's a lot of not debris, but there's a lot of reeds.
Yeah, so you can't really see.
So you're very closed off as well. And it was on a Saturday, so it's quiet as well.
Yeah.
There's no one on the farm. No one is working on the farm on that time. I mean, it's a harrowing thought.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, it happens so quickly.
It's so quickly.
But there's also flood disasters. So drowning accounts for 75% of deaths in flood disasters. Flood disasters are becoming both more frequent as well as more severe, and this trend is expected to continue as part of the climate change. Drowning risks increase with floods, particularly in low and middle income countries where people live in flood prone areas, and the ability to warn, evacuate and protect communities from floods is weak or only just developing. So it's the same with this river close to where I live. Every year there's at least 1 or 2 people drowning in the river, because when we get really, really major rains, this river is so fast and so unpredictable, and people forget that how strong the current actually can get.
Not just that, I mean how deep it can be.
Yes, definitely.
Because the water is very dark, so you can't estimate how deep it is.
And if you think about how high it rises, it must actually be really deep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if I recall, the river where I fell in, I mean, when I fell in, I couldn't even, with my feet,
touch the bottom.
any form of ground.
Damn. And you forget how deep a river could be, because you think to yourself, oh, it's a river. Yeah.
Because I've been on that river with a little stupid, I want to say, not even a rubber duck. It's like this small little fucking boat. I sat in that boat with my father and my brother. We were so sort of squeezed in, and we were on that river. It was in the summertime, but when I fell in the river, it was in winter time where they had their rains. So it's just so difficult to imagine being in that river and falling into the river and not feeling anything. I had to claw myself, to drag myself out of the river. Luckily, I still had my fishing rod in my hand. With all things that happened, I still had the fishing rod in my hand. Oh God! But yeah, it's a harrowing thing. But I mean, my sister almost drowned. I can't remember how old she was, but she is in that 1 to 4 age spectrum. Yeah. And I recall my mom telling me, because I was at school, that she was busy in the garden and she just heard, as she described it, a plop sound.
Yeah.
Because what happened was my sister was playing close to the pool, and my mom didn't look at the pool for 2 minutes.
And
then she reached, because her ball or her toy fell in the water, and she grabbed for the toy and she fell in. Luckily, my mom realized before it was too late, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
You look away for 2 minutes, and if you look again, your child is dead.
My dad almost drowned as a child in the pool as well, and they were he was seconds away from not being able to be.
There was this horrible. It's horrible. There was this horrible story I can remember in my old school before we moved to the school that I graduated from or finished school from. I can still remember there was this, they had a very massive meeting this Monday morning, and where they told the school that this guy was about 16 or 17, it was in summertime.
Yeah.
His mom came home after work and found her boy floating. So what happened was he dived in and didn't calculate correctly, broke his neck, and he drowned.
Oof. But we had a friend that broke a neck but luckily
She
she
survived.
Yeah, and could have easily been
One of those people.
Yep.
Because she dived in into a dark swimming pool.
Yeah.
He dove into a daylight swimming pool.
Yeah.
Just imagine coming home and finding your child floating.
Oh, it must be horrible.
But yeah, that was a good couple of years ago that happened with that.
Yeah.
Morbid. Moving along. So the next one I have here is astrophobia, which is the fear of lightning and thunder, or the phobia of lightning and thunder, which I do have. It's during a thunder and lightning storm where people will go to great lengths to make shelter or hide in bed under the covers or in closets. That's me. I draw all the curtains and I make sure I don't look at it. But it's because I never grew up with thunderstorms.
That's what I just want to say. Weirdly enough, I feel like it's because in Cape Town there is thunderstorms, but very, very, very rarely.
Exactly, very rarely.
And
Where
a lot of people I know, my friends from Cape Town, are scared of thunder because they're not used to it. Where I grew up was listening and looking at the thunder, and like I was playing outside while it was storming, but that's just because I was used to it.
Yeah, and also I actually want to say this one is a social construct. I think I was made to believe to be scared of it. Because I grew up with a very superstitious family. So when there was a thunderstorm, we had to close everything, unplug the TV, throw like a blanket over the TV. So if the TV explodes, it's not shattered everywhere. And, you close
your mirrors and like...
Exactly.
Like, I grew semi up with that as well. But because it was out of experience, that's why they did it in where I grew up, because the thunderstorms got so bad and we've had a TV blown or a computer blown, or it has happened. So like my brother was busy washing the dishes and he could literally out of the window see a thunderbolt strike the ground in our backyard. So like it was a normal thing. So but even though all that, I still don't have the fear for it.
It's it's something either
it's just,
you either have it or you don't have it. But I'm absolutely terrified of thunder and lightning, and it's very, very frightening. But it's also because here in Cape Town we hardly ever, hardly ever have thunder and lightning. It's because we have winter rainfalls and it's cold.
And it's cold.
We don't have warm weather.
Yeah, we don't have rain during warm weather.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But in any case.
Yeah, and also, if I've experienced sometimes when there is thunderstorms, it's like in the middle of the night, so most people are sleeping.
No.
They're like you awake. I mean, you are awake, but other people are not, so they don't
terrified underneath my covers.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I sleep more comfortably
when
a
lot of people like the sound of thunder and lightning. I do. Can't.
I sometimes put like a compilation on for like rain and thunder noise.
I like ocean sounds. That's fun.
Yeah, but you grew up next to the ocean, with the ocean, where I grew up close to the ocean, but I've only saw the ocean like maybe once a month because it was still a half an hour drive away.
Because B is actually quite big as well.
Yeah, no, but I live
yes, but I mean the area.
So we had to drive a half an hour to 40 minutes to actually go to the beach. So it was like a weekend outing. So I think that's why sometimes the ocean annoys me, like the noise.
Oh, I love
especially where we lived. It could get so loud at night sometimes, really loud. And that annoyed me.
No, I liked it. I just couldn't hear it on my side of the...
of the house.
uh,
Yeah, so well, especially because I sleep with my windows open, so obviously.
and even with my windows open, I couldn't hear it.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one is walking alone. The fear of walking alone, which is also a very reasonable thing, especially with today's world, and especially in our country or even America, where you hear of all these stories of women and men being followed at night. Scary stuff.
Yeah, because a friend of ours, I mean, I shudder to think how I walked home alone.
I have no idea how you did it.
I still don't know. My dad said I have what you call it, mainly stupidity, but what's the term he used? He used a specific term, but in any case, stupidity, where someone would even come up to me and say, "Give me your money," and I would say no.
You would do that. That's the problem. That's what made it more scary to think of you walking around at fucking 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning.
But I mean, most of the times I had some people walking with me.
Yeah, but not all of the time.
A lot of the times I walked alone.
Yeah.
After I worked as a waitress, and I would walk home afterwards. But I mean, I always carry a knife on me.
Yeah, but and firstly, your knife is so fucking tiny. You pierce his ears for him.
It's a knife nonetheless.
It's a little pokey thing. That's not a knife.
But what happened to a friend of ours back then is he walked to the shops, and it was literally in the middle of the day, and he was stabbed in the arm.
No, it is. The thing is, it's so not just evenings. It like during the day, it's such a prominent thing. We've had so many muggings with people in my neighborhood that walked to the shops and then they got mugged. So the Gallup's annual crime survey conducted in 2014 found that 37% of US adults say they would not feel safe walking alone near their home at night. By gender, 45% of women said they do not feel safe walking alone at night, compared to 27% of men. So globally, YouGov conducted the largest study about harassment on public transportation to date in 2014. They polled people in 16 major cities worldwide and then ranked the transit system from safest to least safe. As far as experiences of verbal harassment go, the top 5 worst cities were Mexico City, Delhi, Bogota, Lima, Jakarta, while the top 5 worst cities for physical harassment were Mexico City, Bogota, Lima, Tokyo, and Delhi.
Tokyo? Really?
But it's same with the some Korean and Japanese. They literally, I've heard way too many stories where the men follow the females home, and before they close their door, they'll stick something in between the door so the door doesn't close fully. So they'll literally follow the the woman home, and then.
But I mean, I've heard stories about where it's not being any saying anything rude about the Japanese, but where they would basically harass Westerner women, especially blonde women.
I've heard stories of that as well, especially older Japanese. So it's usually older Japanese women, older Japanese men would actually harass a Western woman on the trains and things like that. Basically, it's xenophobia. This is what it is. It's yeah. Okay, so the following is some of the research that has been done in certain countries. So in Afghanistan, Women and Children Legal Research Foundation conducted research in October 2015 with 364 women and girls about sexual harassment in public spaces, workplaces and educational institutes in 7 provinces of Afghanistan. 93% said they were harassed in public spaces, 87% said workplaces, and 89% said educational institutes. Additionally, 90% had observed sexual harassment in public places, 79% in educational spaces, settings, and 72% in workplaces. So in Argentina, in a survey of Argentine women conducted by Inter-American Open University in 2014, 72% said they had recently been catcalled. nearly 2/3 said the advances made them feel uncomfortable or worse.
Catcalling is okay. It's bad, but it's not sexual harassment. It's not physical harassment.
Some people see it as harassment. So there is catcalling in South Africa, but not to the extent compared to other countries. In other countries, it is extreme. Like it is, I've experienced it is really, really uncomfortable. They do harass you till you give them attention. So in that aspect, I would say it's harassing. In South Africa, they'll just call and then leave it.
And then they leave you.
And then they leave you. So I wouldn't consider it as severe harassment like in other countries. So in Buenos Aires in Argentina, the movement of women of the motherland of Latin American released a study in April 2016 revealing that 100% of women in the city of Buenos Aires have experienced street harassment. Half of the participants faced sexually explicit comments, 59% reported obscene gestures, 47% had been followed by a man, and 37% reported having a man's genitalia exposed to them.
Jeez.
And then Australia, research by the Australian Institute in 2015 of 1,426 females found that 87% were verbally or physically attacked while walking down the street. 40% of women feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods at night. In addition to verbal harassment, physical street harassment was also a relatively commonplace occurrence, with 65% of women experiencing physically threatening harassment. And then in the USA, in June 2014, SSH commissioned a 2,000-person national survey in the USA with surveying firm GfK. The survey found that 65% of all women had experienced street harassment. Among all women, 23% had been sexually touched, 20% had been followed, and 9% had been forced to do something sexual. Among men, 25% had been street harassed, and then a higher percentage of LGBT identified men than heterosexual men reported this. And the most common form of harassment was homophobic or transphobic slurs, which was 9%.
Can't believe people.
So that's the reason why people are afraid to walk alone.
No, definitely, I can definitely understand. But
I know.
Why do people have to catcall and have to take it further?
Exactly.
I mean, just go fuck yourself.
And the thing is, I've always felt uncomfortable walking alone anyway, because it just, you do get looks, you do get the occasional catcall.
But I have a theory. See, I spend a lot of times on the street, as you know, with my art, where I photograph people on the street. I was in busy areas, but it's also busy areas where people got mugged and stuff like that. And what I did was, to sort of blend in, was to basically look like a hobo, meaning not wearing any decent clothes, tend to, stick to, I want to say, to
more masculine wear, or
masculine, not just masculine wear, but just, just literally wearing shitty clothes.
The most unappealing thing ever.
Exactly.
But
because one of the reasons why I did it is because I can blend in.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to notice me while I was photographing them, because I wanted to see people in that instances where you don't think someone sees you, but they do.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I did, and no one really noticed me. If ever I did have, let's say, just a better pair of jeans on with a t-shirt and something, people do notice you.
Yeah. But weirdly enough, they actually did research in America where they saw that the men catcalling the females was purely because they were female, not because what they were wearing, not because the men found them attractive. Really? It was literally just because they felt they had to, and the power they get from.
That's very interesting, because I never experienced that with all my walks I had.
But see, and especially like big cities in America, like New York, those things, they did an experiment, and it was purely because
they were female.
They were female, not because they were sexually attracted to the female, not because of what the female was wearing.
That's actually very interesting, because I never had that instance where anyone paid me any attention.
But that's the thing.
At all.
In South Africa, catcalling is not so big. You get...
It's more a group of people.
It's more a group of people,
it's
but
not a single person.
It's not a single person, and also you would get I wouldn't say harassed, but someone will come to you and ask you for money and talk to you about things like that, but it wouldn't necessarily be because you're a female and they want your attention. You do get some people that do catcall in South Africa, but it's not a norm. It's not a everyday thing. If I would look at the amount of times I've been out in the last month or so, and I've never been catcalled once. So especially if I go out
Evocative clothing.
Yeah, and even if I go out at night and I have maybe a dress on or something, I wouldn't get catcalled. But it's not a thing in South Africa. I felt like I was more catcalled in other countries than I was in South Africa, because I think it's more a thing in other countries.
Probably a culture thing.
It might be a culture thing.
Hard to say. I mean,
like, we do get looks in South Africa. That's a thing that does happen. Especially if you're in a dodgy neighborhood, you'll get looks. But not necessarily...
It's definitely a difficult topic to discuss with, I want to say, with the limits to Cape Town.
Yeah, definitely. Because
if you're in town, it's more often.
It's more often, 100%, and we're not close enough to Cape Town to... I have experienced it more in the Cape Town itself than I have where we live in our area, which is true. So nights out in Cape Town, it was a lot more
during the broad daylight.
True, during broad daylight, but I've never been in Cape Town enough during the day. So, but you still get odd looks and like sort of that what you fucking staring at look, you know, those type of looks. But yeah, so. But places like Los Angeles and New York, especially in America, New York, they actually did the study where they took someone that was more dressed with tight pants and tight shirt. They did get a lot of catcalls, but they did the same with the normal female dressed for work appropriately, nothing tightly fitted.
And someone looking like a hobo?
I don't think they did that.
I think they should try that
They should do that. Try someone looking like a hobo.
Because that's what I did. I literally looked like fucking shit.
It was purely the male getting that power from catcalling rather than actually it being a female.
But okay, moving on to the last one, or my last one, it is trypanophobia.
Trypanophobia?
Which is the fear of injections. So, I don't have the phobia, I just have the fear of it. So, estimates suggest that as many as 20 to 30% of adults are affected by this phobia. People tend to avoid medical treatments and doctors, which tend to lead to conditions that are not treated, which is actually quite bad.
Yeah.
Because I have this irrational fear of, Megan knows this, that, you know, I step into a glass and Megan would say, "Oh no, Monet, we need to go to the doctor, you need to get stitches." I have this blinding fear, irrational fear of this. But I am afraid of needles. But, to say the least, I am a regular blood donor.
Yeah, so for me, that is so weird that that you can handle that. And not just the fear for needles, your fear for blood as well.
Yeah, I have a fear of blood as well. It's just, I don't look at it. I don't look when they put the needle in. I did once. Not when they put the needle in, when the needle was already in. I thought to myself, listen here, you're here now. Just
come over your fear. Get over your fear.
Get over your fear. Get over it, bitch. Just look at it. It's not that bad. I looked at it and I almost passed out. So I don't look at it anymore.
But does the pain...
It's not pain. It's not sore. I mean, it feels like literally someone is giving you a pinch on your arm.
Well, I know how... I've had my blood drawn and things like that, so I know how it feels. But I mean, is it just the idea of that thing sticking into you? Yeah, so I was a very weird kid. I'm still very weird. So I used to take a needle with thread and I would put it between all my fingers. So I would literally stick it through the skin. Stitch my fingers through all the top layers of my skin. Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Jesus,
I don't know. I don't know why I did that. It's not painful because obviously it's the top layers of your skin, so you don't really feel it. But I don't know why I did that. I found it so fascinating. I
Man,
just
man.
maybe I shouldn't tell people
Man.
the extent of my weirdness because it might. Well, you're already in my life. There's no way getting out. So you know my weirdness.
Yes, I do. It's just weird thinking about needles. I mean, I'm absolutely terrified of needles. Like I said, it's not a phobia. It's a fear. But I mean, I recall one time, I was quite young, it was way before I started donating blood. I had to go to the doctor. I was terribly ill. I had this massive, horrible gastro infection, and the only thing, the doctor said he needs to give me an injection in order for me to keep anything down, because I couldn't keep anything down.
Yeah.
And I started crying. I don't cry a lot. I mean, it sounds like I'm this bitch that cries a lot. I don't cry. But I cried in the office and I said, please, can't you give me anything except the injection? He literally told me, fucking shut up. Literally, the doctor told me, fucking shut up, turn over. And it was quite painful. It burned. But I survived.
You survived.
I survived. I think the only thing that makes me feel good or feeling alright, with needles, a very, very fucking thick needle in your arm while donating blood, it's because it's for a good cause.
It's for a good cause. I think
I think that's the only thing that sort of makes me cope with it.
Yeah,
I have to
that
say,
overweighs the
when
fear.
they prick your finger to test your iron, that's more sore
than
having them stick the needle in your arm. But I have to say, this one time, the last time I donated, I almost passed out. Because the two nurses were talking, and the one that was taking out the needle, what they normally do is, if those people that don't know, they normally just put a piece of cotton bud underneath it, and they press very hard on your arm, so the wound closes. The wound closes. And they normally ask you, okay, just make a quick fist for us, and that's where they see, if it's going to stop. And I don't look at it. I don't look at my arm or anything of that whole process. I'm just, singing, some sort of song in my head just to cope with it. While they were talking, the nurse said very softly, she's still bleeding. I'm like, no, I can't deal.
No, I'm weird. I used to prick myself with a needle just to feel how it feels, because I don't know.
Weird child.
I was a weird child and I'm a weird adult. No, I used to prick myself with the needle. Now I wouldn't be able to do it because I know, not the fear, it's just the no, maybe I would be able to do it. I don't know. I used to prick myself with a needle just to feel how it feels. I don't know. Clearly there was something wrong with me. There's still a lot wrong with me, but weirdly enough, I did. I just entertained myself with other things.
Needles.
Yeah, needles. No, I literally used to do. I don't know why. Sorry if you can hear the rain in the background. That's
it is literally our rainy season. This is winter.
It literally went louder when I said that.
But any case, this was the rational fear. So next week we will discuss irrational fears.
Yes.
Which will be very interesting because I actually have a shitload of those. Which will be funny.
Funny. Diving deep into that.
And also check out if you want to become a Patreon, because we will be submitting the very, 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 very first by now. It
would be released already.
But the very first Patreon episode, so
it's available. The point is, the very first Patreon episode is available.
So that will be from $5 and up, right?
So it's from $5 upwards.
Mm-hmm.
You will be able, firstly, early access to episodes as well as extra content that will be available.
So become a basic bitch. Not a basic bitch. You can become a basic bitch, but become a balanced bitch.
Yes.
Or if you feel like being more supportive, there is also the brave bitch, which is the $10.
And then there's the Bazinga bitch,
which is the $20.
Which is the $20. So we're still working on extra content for our Patreon to make it a bit more exclusive. We will try and release at least 3 to 2 episodes extra content every month. So we will be having a basic bitch corner, which is basically just a podcast exclusive for the Patreon that we will be talking about random shit.
It's literally just a bitch corner.
A bitch corner. We will just be ranting and talking. So if you like things like that, please stay tuned. And we will also be doing our Scary Bitch podcast.
Yeah.
Which is also exclusive to Patreon, which is going to be about scary stories, real life scary events, anything revolving being scared little bitches.
So actually, if you have a story that you would like to share with us and we like it, we will actually share it on
the podcast.
Yes. So either email it to us at zombiechickenspodcast@gmail.com. That's not very difficult to remember. Or you can follow us on the social medias, which is also Zombie Chickens Podcast, and
comment
us there.
And message DM us or message or comment, and we'll get back to it. Also, we will be starting to link our email address to our episodes as well as on our social medias. So if you do want to submit a story or anything, communicate with us, you will be able to do it through that email address. But yeah.
So that's that. Cheers for years.
Cheers for years.